The hall smelled of jasmine and fresh fabric that evening, the kind of smell that only comes from new curtains and old memories mixed together. I remember smoothing down the silver tablecloths with my wrinkled hands, wanting everything to be perfect. After all, it was our 25th wedding anniversary, a number that sounded heavy with meaning, like it was supposed to prove something. I had started preparing weeks before. I chose the guest list carefully. Old friends, distant cousins, his co-workers, neighbors who had watched our children grow. I arranged the flowers myself because I never trusted anyone else with things that mattered. White lilies stood tall in glass vases, and silver ribbons wrapped around each chair. That morning I woke up before the sun, the way I had for most of my married life. While he slept peacefully beside me, snoring softly, I moved quietly through the apartment, cooking, cleaning, straightening everything that already looked perfect. I thought a good wife was someone who made life easier for everyone else, even if it made her own life invisible. As I dressed, I chose a silver sari. I hadn't worn it in years. It was simple, but it made me feel like I still existed, not just as a wife or a mother, but as a woman. I looked at myself in the mirror and tried to remember the girl I was before marriage. She felt like a stranger now. The guests arrived just as the sun dipped behind the buildings. Laughter filled the hall. Glasses clinked. Someone turned on soft music from the 90s, and a slow wave of nostalgia washed over me. I walked around serving guests, smiling so much that my cheeks hurt, answering the same question again and again. Doesn't it feel wonderful to be married for 25 years? I always replied, yes, it does. My husband stood in the center of it all, laughing louder than anyone. He looked proud, comfortable, like a king in a palace I had built with tired hands and quiet prayers. When it was time for the speech, he tapped his glass with a spoon. That sound is something I still hear in my dreams. Tap, tap, tap. Everyone turned toward him. Cameras lifted. Smiles froze, waiting for romance. I felt a strange tightness in my chest, but I ignored it. I told myself, he will thank you. He will surprise you with love. He didn't. He smiled and said, after 25 years, I think that's enough. There was a small pause. People chuckled lightly, thinking it was a joke. Then he continued, I want someone younger. And I think it's time for you to leave the apartment. Tomorrow. There are moments in life when the world doesn't explode. Just stops. The music faded behind my ears. Faces blurred. The smell of jasmine turned suffocating. I felt something crack inside my chest, not loudly but quietly, the way old wood splits after carrying too much weight for too many years. No one moved. No one breathed. I stood there holding a tray of untouched sweets, my fingers trembling so slightly that no one noticed. In that silence, a strange thought entered my mind, soft as a secret. He forgot something. Not the years. Not the children. Not the promises. He forgot that the apartment was never his. And for the first time in 25 years, I didn't feel like crying. I felt awake. The room stayed frozen after his words, like time itself had been shocked into silence. I could see the faces of our guests, some confused, some embarrassed, some secretly curious. They were all waiting for me to break, to cry, to beg, or to run. But something strange happened inside me. Instead of breaking, I felt steady. I walked slowly toward the table where the microphone lay. Each step felt like I was walking back through time. Past the dishes I washed, the nights I stayed awake waiting for him, the dreams I folded away so his could unfold. My fingers wrapped around the microphone. Felt heavier than it looked. My husband frowned slightly. He didn't expect this part. In his mind, I was supposed to be quiet, invisible, ashamed. I could almost hear his thoughts, she won't dare. But I did. I lifted the microphone and turned toward the guests. My voice came out soft at first, but it did not shake. Thank you for coming tonight, I said. The words drifted across the silent hall. I want to say something too. He shifted beside me, uncomfortable. For the first time, his confidence wavered. He wasn't worried yet. He was annoyed. I looked at the familiar faces in the crowd. You've known us for years. You've seen the photos, the birthdays, the holidays. But you don't see the invisible parts. A soft murmur moved through the room. I was the one who woke up first and slept last. I was the quiet sound in the house that kept everything alive. Then, I turned toward him. You say 25 years is enough. I smiled, not loudly but gently. There is one small thing you seem to have forgotten. He crossed his arms, trying to keep his control. What are you talking about? He whispered through his teeth. I didn't answer him directly. Instead, I lifted an envelope from the table beside the cake. I had brought it without knowing why. Maybe my heart already knew the storm that was coming. I opened it calmly. This apartment, I said, holding up the papers, is not yours. Gasps echoed in the room like falling glass. It was bought with my inheritance just before our wedding. The paperwork is in my name. Always has been. His face drained of color. I continued, my voice growing stronger. Your business? I gave you the money to start it. Your first office? I paid the rent. The furniture? I chose it. Someone at the back let out a small, shocked breath. You did all this? A guest whispered. I never spoke about it, I said, because I thought love meant silence. Now I was looking directly at him. You wanted honesty tonight, I said softly. So here it is. He opened his mouth, but no words came. So tomorrow, I finished, my voice calm and clear. You are free to leave. You could hear nothing, not even breathing. The microphone felt warm in my hands now, like it was alive. That was the moment. The moment when the room didn't see me as a quiet wife anymore. They saw me as a woman who had been standing on her own feet all along. I gently placed the microphone back on the table. My husband still couldn't move. He had wanted to make a show. He never expected the stage to become mine. That night I did not scream. That night I did not throw plates. I did not shout names or tear photographs from the walls. I simply went home. The guests slowly left, their whispers trailing behind them like shadows. Some tried to hug me, some avoided my eyes, some looked at my husband with new, frightened curiosity. He walked beside me in silence. For the first time in our marriage, he didn't know what to say. Inside the apartment, everything looked the same. The curtains fell softly, the cushions rested neatly, the clock ticked faithfully on the wall. It should have felt familiar. It felt free. He stood near the door like a guest who had stayed too long. So what now? He asked. I looked at him calmly. No anger. No tears. You wanted change, I said. Change has come. That night he packed a small bag. At first he moved slowly, as if waiting for me to stop him. I didn't. Then he started moving faster, confused. I still didn't. When the door closed behind him, the sound wasn't loud. It was peaceful. The next morning, I woke up and did something I had never done before. I changed the locks. The locksmith's tools made small metallic sounds that felt like tiny bells ringing in my ears. With every turn of the screwdriver, a piece of my old life loosened and fell away. I went to the bank. I didn't shake. I didn't hesitate. I froze the joint accounts. I moved the money that had always been mine back into my name. The banker looked surprised. People didn't expect old women to be strong. But strength does not make noise. It makes decisions. Neighbors began to notice. They saw him outside one afternoon, standing by the gate with a suitcase, staring up at the windows like a lost traveler. He knocked once, then twice. I didn't open the door. Not because I hated him, because I respected myself. That was my revenge. Not shouting, not destroying, but removing. He tried calling me. The phone rang and rang. I let it ring. He left messages. Apologies soaked in panic. Promises suddenly discovered. I listened to none of them. Silence became my language. Peace became my answer. Inside the apartment, I began to move things. I changed the layout of the living room. I moved the couch he loved. I removed the photos that showed us pretending to be happy. Not angrily, just gently, like you would remove thorns from a flower. I started buying fresh flowers for myself. Not for guests. Not for him. For me. In the evenings, I sat by the window with a warm cup of tea and watched the sunset without having to check the time. Without having to wait for someone's mood to decide the atmosphere of the house. For the first time in my life, my home belonged to me in more than just paperwork. One afternoon, I heard neighbors saying, "He looks different these days. He walks slower. He doesn't smile." I felt no joy in that. Only relief. Because revenge isn't always loud and sharp. Sometimes it is soft. Sometimes it wears the face of calm. Sometimes it looks like a woman finally choosing herself. I didn't destroy him. I simply stopped saving him. And that was enough. Now I sit by the window many years later, with a soft blanket over my knees and sunlight warming my old bones. The world has grown quieter around me. My hands shake more than they used to. My hair, once dark and thick, has turned the color of winter clouds. But my heart is steady. My grandchildren sit at my feet, their eyes wide and curious, their heads resting against my legs. To them I am just Grandma, the woman who makes sweet tea and tells stories. They don't see the battles I fought quietly, the storms I survived without noise. Grandma, one of them asks, did you ever feel afraid? I smile at them. Yes, I say. I was afraid for many years. They lean closer. Tell us the story. The smallest one whispers. The microphone story. So I tell them. I tell them about the silver decorations, the jasmine smell, and the way the room went silent when their grandfather said he was done. I tell them about the moment I picked up the microphone, even though my hands were trembling. I tell them about the courage that comes after pain, not before it. But didn't you cry? One of them asks. Yes, I answer softly. But not in front of him. They ask why I didn't shout, why I didn't throw things, why I didn't fight. I take their little hands in mine and say, because strength does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it simply walks away. I want them to understand something that took me 25 years to learn. I tell them, never make someone your whole world. Never forget your own worth for the comfort of someone who does not see it. Outside the window, birds gather on the wire. The wind moves the curtains gently. One of my grandchildren curls up beside me and says, Grandma, you're brave. I hold them tighter. I wasn't always, I whisper. But I learned. Sometimes in the quiet evenings I think about the man I once loved. I don't hate him. I don't curse his name. He was a lesson. Painful, slow, but necessary. Because without him I might never have met myself. My voice grows softer as I finish the story. Revenge isn't about hurting someone. It's about healing yourself so well that they no longer have power over you. The children don't fully understand now. They are too young. But one day when life tries to make them smaller, they will remember my words. They will remember their grandmother, not as a broken woman, but as a woman who stood up without raising her voice. And as the sun sets gold and orange across the sky, I close my eyes for a moment and breathe in the quiet. I lost a husband that night, but I found a life. And that, my sweet children, was the greatest victory of all.